यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन
यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन
यमुनतिरावनचारि
यमुनतीरावनचारी।
जय राधा माधव कुञ्ज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी।
जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी।
हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे।
हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे राम 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 हरे हरे।
श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की
की जय।
मम ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य
ज्ञानांजन शलाकया
ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया
चक्षुन्मीलितं
श्री
तस्मै
गुरुवे
श्री
श्री चैतन्य
श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं
महावीर
येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा
लोककदाति
ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं
वन्देऽहं
वन्देऽहं
श्रीगुरो
श्रीगुरु
श्रीयुतापदकमलं
श्रीयुतपदकमलं
श्रीगुरून्
श्रीगुरुन्
वैष्णवांश्च
वैष्णवांश्चं
श्रीरूपां
श्रीरूपां
साग्रजातां
साग्रजातं
सहगना
सगण
रघुनाथान्वितं
रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं
साद्वैतं
साद्वैतं
सावधूतं
सावधूतं परिजनसहितं
परिजनसहितं कृष्ण
कृष्ण
चैतन्य
चैतन्यदेव
श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान्
श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान्
सहगण श्री
सगणरूप
विशाखान्वितांश्च
श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च
नमो
नमो ॐ
विष्णुपादाय
विष्णुपादाय
कृष्णपृष्ठाय
कृष्णपृष्ठाय
भूतले
भूतले
श्रीमते
श्रीमते
भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिति नामिने।
भक्तिवेदान्त नाम्ने
नमस्ते
नमस्ते
सरस्वती देवी
सरस्वती देवी
गौरवाणी
गौरवाणी
प्रचारिणे
प्रचारिणे
निर्विशेष शून्यवादी
निर्विशेष
पाश्चात्य
पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे।
नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण
महावदन्याय
प्रेम
कृष्ण
प्रदाय
प्रेम
हे
प्रदायते
कृष्णाय
कृष्ण
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 चैतन्य नामिने
चैतन्य
गौरव।
नामिने गौरकृष्ण।
हे
हे
कृष्णा
कृष्णा
करुणा
करुणा
सिंधु
सिंधु दीनबंधु
दीनबंधु जगत्पते
जगत्पते
गोपेशा
देश
गोपीकांत
गोपिका कांता
श्रीराम
श्री राधा कांता नमस्ते।
सप्तकांचन
कंचन
गौरांगे
गौरांगिनी
राधे
श्रीमती
वृंदावनेश्वरी
वृंदावनेश्वरी
विश्वभानुदेवी
विश्वभानुसुते देवी
प्रणमामि
प्रणमामि।
हरि। नीलाचल
नीलाचल
निवासाय
निवासाय
नित्याय
नित्याय
परमात्मने
परमात्मने
बलभद्रा
बलवते
सुभद्राभ्यां
सुभद्राभ्यां
जगन्नाथाय ते नमः।
ते नमः।
वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च
कल्पतरुभ्यश्च
कृपा
कृपा
सिन्धुभ्यश्च
सिन्धुभ्यः च
पतितानां
पतितानां
पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री
जय
कृष्ण
श्री कृष्ण
चैतन्य
चैतन्य
प्रभु
प्रभु
नित्यानंद
नित्यानंद
श्री
श्री
अद्वैत
अद्वैत
गदाधर शिवासादि
शिवासादि
गौर
गौर।
भक्तवृंद। हरे
हरे
कृष्ण
कृष्ण हरे
कृष्ण
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 हरे
कृष्ण
हरे, हरे
हरे
राम
हरे
राम
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 हरे।
राम।
Hare Krishna. So we're reading today from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 10, chapter entitled The Lord's Return to Jagannath Puri. So yesterday we went till verse 113. Today we will read 114 onwards. So we're reading about Srila Swarup Damodar Goswami, who was very intimate to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and one of his service was to check for uh, anything opposition of philosophical deviation or any overlapping of transcendental mellows when somebody brought any of their compositions. It was a practice of Swarup Damodar Goswami to examine all literatures to find out whether their conclusions are correct. Only then would he allow them to be heard by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Purport: Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that if something impedes the execution of devotional service, it should be understood to be impure. Anything that hinders the execution of devotional service should be impure. Any rules, any regulations. Pure devotees of the Lord do not accept impure principles. Impure devotees accept rasabhas or overlapping contradictory mellows and the other principles opposed to the bhakti path. The followers of such impure principles are never accepted as pure devotees. There are many parties following the path of Rasavas, and the followers are sometimes adored by ordinary men. Those who adopt the conclusions of Rasavas and Bhakti Siddhanta Viruddha are never accepted as devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Swarup Damodar Goswami never approved such followers as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, nor did he allow them even to meet the Supreme Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. विद्यापति चंडीदास श्री गीत गोविंद ए तीन गीते करान प्रभुर आनंद. Sri Sharup Damodar used to read the poems of Vidyapati and Chandidas and Jayadev Goswami Sri Gita Govinda. He used to make Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very happy by singing these songs. So Vidyapati, Chandidas and Jayadev Goswami's songs, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very much appreciate and very much like. And they're in line in the parampara. And there's no overlapping of melody. संगीते गंधर्व सम शास्त्रे बृहस्पति दामोदर समर नहीं महामति. Sarup Damodar was as expert a musician as a Gandharva, and in scriptural discussion he was just like Brihaspati, the priest of the heavenly gods. Therefore, it is to be concluded that there was no great personality quite like Sarup Damodar. The Gandharvas are the musicians of the heavenly planets. So, they are much more expert than best of the experts of this world. And in this spiritual discussion, he was just like Brihaspati, the spiritual master of the Devtas. Sarup Damodar Goswami was very expert in music as well as the Vedic scriptures. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to call him Damodar because of his expert singing and musical skills. The name Damodar was given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and added to the name given by his sannyas guru. He was therefore known as Swarupa Damodar or Damodara Swarup. He compiled a book of music named Sangeet Damodar. Advaita Nityanandir Parama Priyatama Shivasadi Bhakta Ganer Hai Prana Sama. Sri Swarup Damodar was very dear to Advaita Acharya Nityananda Prabhu, and he was the life and soul of all the devotees. Headed by Srivas Thakur. Sei Damodara Shri Dandavat Haila Charane Poriya Sloka Porite Lagila. When Swarup Damodar came to Jagannath Puri, he fell flat before the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, offering him obeisances and reciting a verse. He recites a special verse in Sanskrit. This is today's verse. He lodhunita khedaya vishadaya pronmilat amodaya.
Eladonita Kedaya Vishadaya Viladamodaya
Samyak shastra vivadaya rasadaya chittarpitonmadaya.
Yamayas
Samyak
Vivadaya Rasadaya Chittarpiton Madaya
Shashvat bhakti vinodaya samadaya madhurya maryadaya.
शाश्वत भक्ति
Vinodaya
विनोदया सामध्य माधुर्य
Maryadaya
मर्यादया
Chaitanya daya nidhe tabadaya bhuyadamandodaya.
श्री चैतन्य दया निधे तब दया भूयत अमो अमल दो दया.
Anyone would like to recite?
हेलो धोनीता
Vishadaya Pranamida Mamudaya
Dhunita
की
khedaya
दया
vishudaya
विषयाद
pranmilat amodaya.
दया
Shastra Vivadaya Rasadaya Chittarpitan Madaya
Samyak shastra vivadaya
दया
rasadaya
दोषदय चित्रान
chittarpiton
पितुन्मय
mahadaya.
Ashvat Bhakti Vinodaya Samadaya Madhurya Maryadaya
शाश्वत
Shashvatabhakti
भक्ति
vinodaya
विनोदया
samadaya
समदया
madhurya
मधुर्य
maryadaya.
मर्यादया.
Shri Chaitanya Dayanidhe Tava Daya Bhuya Namundadaya.
Shri
Shri
Chaitanya
Chaitanya
Dayanidhe
Dayanidhi
Savadaya
Tavadaya
Bhuyad.
Bhuyad Amanulodayad.
The glorification of Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by Swarup Damodar. O ocean of mercy, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, let there be an awakening of your auspicious mercy, which easily drives away all kinds of material lamentation, making everything pure and blissful. Indeed, your mercy awakens transcendental bliss and covers all material pleasures. By your auspicious mercy, quarrels and disagreements arising among different scriptures are vanquished. Your auspicious mercy pours forth transcendental mellows and thus causes the heart to jubilate. Your mercy, which is full of joy, always stimulates devotional service and glorifies conjugal love of Godhead. May transcendental bliss be awakened within my heart by your causeless mercy. This important verse from Sri Chaitanya Chandrodaya Nataka specifically describes the Lord's causeless mercy. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the most magnanimous personality of Godhead, distributes his causeless mercy in three ways to the conditioned soul. Every living entity is morose in the material world because he is always in want. Everybody has some hankering. I want this, I want that. So he undergoes a great struggle for existence and tries to minimize his miserable condition by squeezing the utmost pleasure out of this world. So this world existence is not just existence, struggle for existence. And everyone's trying to satisfy their longing for happiness by squeezing out the pleasures of the senses. But the living entity is never successful in this endeavor because materially one cannot be fully satisfied. While in a miserable condition, a person sometimes seeks the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But this is very difficult for materialistic people to obtain. However, when one becomes Krishna conscious by the grace of the Lord, the fragrance of the lotus feet of the Lord expands, and in this way, a materialist may gain freedom from his miseries. Actually, his mind is cleansed by his transcendental connection with the lotus feet of the Lord. At such a time, one is enlightened by the loving service of the Lord. So, Lord Chaitanya's mercy revives one from the suffering conditions of this world and bestows loving service. There are many different kinds of scriptures, and by reading them, one often becomes puzzled. But when one receives the mercy of the Lord, his confusion is mitigated. Not only are scriptural disparities resolved, but a kind of transcendental bliss is awakened. And in this way, one is fully satisfied. The transcendental loving service of the Lord constantly engages the conditioned soul in serving the Lord's lotus feet. Through such fortunate engagement, one's transcendental love for Krishna is increased. One's position is thus completely purified, and one is filled with transcendental bliss, accompanied by spiritual jubilation. So sometimes a seeker, he may be a seeker, spiritual seeker, but because of not being connected to the parampara of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he may be confused about the conclusion. Like we see in the Journey Home, the autobiography of His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj. So Maharaj, we see that he was searching for absolute truth, and he's going to different ashrams, different monasteries, and reading the scriptures. Before coming to India, he visited different other religions library. So he read about Christianity. He read about uh, Islam. And then when he came to India, he was reading the various kinds of Vedic literatures. And finally comes to Vrindavan, and he meets His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And one of the person asked this question that whether God is personal or impersonal. So Maharaj Rai said that since his search, he was having this doubt whether God is personal or God is a person who is having a beautiful feature, or God is some energy. So though Maharaj visited so many monasteries and met so many sadhus and read so many books, but he was still uh, he could not ascertain whether this absolutely this personal or impersonal. But as soon as he met Srila Prabhupada, who is in the parampara of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this doubt is cleared and faith is established in the personal form of Supreme Lord. So that is a mercy of uh, uh, being connected in the parampara of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that one understands the personal form, personal loving service to Supreme Lord. And that is why one can give up the service of Maya and engage oneself in the loving service of Supreme Lord. And Mahaprabhu is giving the highest benediction of serving Supreme Lord in these 5 different rasas. Through such fortunate one's transcendental love for Krishna is increased. One's position is thus completely purified. One is filled with transcendental bliss, accompanied by the spirit soul's jubilation. Thus, the transcendental causeless mercy of Lord Krishna is manifested in the heart of the devotee. At such a time, material needs no longer exist. The lamentation that invariably accompanies material desires also vanishes. By the grace of the Lord, one is elevated to the transcendental position, and then the transcendental mellows of the spiritual world are manifested in him. One's devotional service then becomes firm, and one engages in the Lord's transcendental loving service with great determination. All this combined to fully awaken the devotee's heart with love of Krishna. So material desires vanishes, and love of Godhead arises in the heart of the devotee. In the beginning, a conditioned soul is bereft of Krishna consciousness, always morose in his material activities. So by performing activity, nobody has become happy. Even if people externally show they are happy, but people are always morose when they are disconnected from Krishna. Later, by associating with a pure devotee, one becomes inquisitive to know the absolute truth. In this way, one begins to engage in the transcendental service of the Lord. Next, by the Lord's grace, all misconceptions are vanquished, and the heart is cleansed of all material dirt. It is only then that the pleasure of transcendental bliss is awakened. By the Lord's mercy, one is completely convinced of the value of devotional service. When one can see the pastimes of the Lord everywhere, he is firmly situated in transcendental bliss. Such a devotee is relieved of all kinds of material desires, and he preaches the glories of the Lord all over the world. These Krishna conscious activities separate him from material activities and the desire for liberation, because at every step the devotee feels himself connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These Krishna conscious activities separate him from both material activities and the desire for liberation, means desire for impersonal liberation or merging into the Brahman. Why? Because at every step the devotee feels himself connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We see that verse, Kaivalya Narakayate, Prabodhananda Saraswati writes that even Kaivalya means the impersonal liberation, which is and the happiness of impersonal liberation, the material happiness not even a drop to impersonal liberation. But if such impersonal liberation also becomes hellish for a devotee who is engaged in the service of the Lord. Because for a devotee, his highest happiness is in being engaged in the service of the Lord. It doesn't matter where he resides, whether he is in Goloka or in uh, this world or in Narak. He is always in bliss, being engaged in the service. Without the service, he feels that is hellish condition. So impersonal liberation means there is no service, but is free from birth and death. So a devotee considers such liberation to be hellish because there is no service, loving service. So that is why he is separated from such desire for liberation. Although such a devotee may sometimes be involved in household life, he is untouched by material existence due to his constant engagement in devotional service. So such a devotee may be householder, but because he is absorbed in devotional service, so he is untouched by the contamination of material life. So many of the Mahaprabhus associated with see they are grihasthas, but they are paramahamsas. They are not ordinary household people. They are paramahamsas in the sense they are completely absorbed in the service of Supreme Lord. So whether we are brahmachari or we are grihastha, one has to absorb himself in the loving service of the Supreme Lord. Then he will be untouched by the material existence. Like Krishna gives the example of the lotus leaf, which is untouched by the mud around. So one who absorbs himself in the service of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he can remain untouched by material existence. Thus, everyone is advised to take shelter of devotional service to become happy and liberated. So one who takes shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and in that parampara he performs devotional service, he becomes joyful in this life and then goes back to spiritual world, the highest abode of spiritual world, Goloka Vrindavan, and serves eternally there, Shri Radha and Krishna, with increased happiness and pleasure. That is the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Kevala Ananda Kanda. Parama Karuna Pahodvidana. Kevala Ananda Kanda. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement is joyful from the beginning. The chanting and dancing is so joyful. Yes, even a child, when he participates, he feels so much joy. So, and this is our sadhana also. So the sadhana is also so joyful. How much one attains the perfection, how much joyful it will be. So, so this great mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is readily available to all of us. So one who accepts this mercy will be very, very fortunate. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. श्री सर्वदामोदर गोस्वामी की जय, जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय,
जय
अद्वैत गौर भक्तवृंद की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे. Any questions or comments? Yes, Sanjay Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Sanjay Prabhu.
Oh, sorry. Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavad Pranam. Prabhuji, can liberation be divided into two forms? One is impersonal liberation and another is spiritual liberation.
There are 5 types of liberation. One among them is Sayujya Mukti, which is called impersonal liberation, where there is no service to Supreme Lord. Others are Sarupya, Salokya, Sarashti, where one receives the resides in the same abode of the Supreme Lord. One stays very near to Supreme Lord. One gets a similar form like Supreme Lord. So in those liberations, there is service. So those are accepted by our Vaishnava Acharyas. But this impersonal liberation, Sayujya Mukti, where there is no service to Supreme Lord, that is not accepted.
So what is the most desired liberation for the Vaishnavas?
And desired liberation for the Vaishnava is absorption in loving service without tinge of any material motivation. So that is why the pure devotees, for them, because they are absorbed in the loving devotional service, and the place doesn't matter. For them, this world is also Goloka. Right? Prabodhananda Saraswati in the same series of verses, says, Vishwam Purna Sukhayate. Krishna is saying material world is Dukhalayam, but Prabodhananda Saraswati, great Acharya, who is the uncle of Gopal Bhatta Goswami, he writes that Vishwam Purna Sukhaya, that this world is a place of happiness. Why? Because he is absorbed in devotional service in this world. So wherever we are absorbed in service to Lord Krishna, that place becomes Goloka Vrindavan. So for a pure devotee, his only desire is to remain absorbed in the service of the Lord and remain and keep getting the association of devotees. That is why we see the prayers of all the great devotees, they desire for association and service to Supreme Lord. Association of devotees and service to Supreme. So that is our
Prabhu,
aspiration. And
yeah.
actually already we have got that. I was just
Yeah.
hearing 2 days back Radheshyam Prabhu's lecture. So Radheshyam, we have already actually achieved the perfection. Just we have to realize and we have to become more and more pure. Because we are engaged in service, but we have material aspirations. So, mm, so we have to purify our motivations and aspirations. Then our service will become more and more loving service. When the service is there is material tinge, there is material contamination, material conceptions, then the service is contaminated. So it's like sweet rice mixed with sand. So
Yeah.
currently we are also trying to serve Supreme Lord, and that is mixed with material motivations uh, and desire for liberation. So that is not pure service.
Yeah.
To purify our existence so that our service becomes more and more pure and more pleasing to Supreme Lord.
So one more thing, Prabhuji. So in Bhagavad Gita, it is described that this world is Dukhalem Aswaswatam.
Hmm.
So here, for devotees, it is as good as Golok Vrindavan because they are observed. So this world doesn't matter whether it is good or bad. It is the conception of the jiva,
Consciousness.
consciousness of the jiva that makes this world either bad or good. Is it right?
Yeah, consciousness. If you attain the consciousness of pure devotee, then you are unaffected by the disturbance of this world.
So the world doesn't matter very much, no?
Yeah,
It is
when
the
your consciousness is elevated to the platform of your just like if you're fully immune, then even if you go to a contaminated place, you will not get affected. But if your immunity is less, you will get affected. So
yes.
pure devotee is fully immune, so he is uncontaminated by while being in this world.
Okay.
But
Hare Krishna.
we get affected by the three modes of material nature.
Yeah.
So so we have to be careful.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Shirot Prabhu is raising hand. So yes, Shirot.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavad Pranam. Prabhuji, Prabhuji, you told three devotees whose writing was very much liked by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One is Jayadev Goswami, I know. And what about Vidyapati Prabhuji and Chandidas? Chandidas is same that in Chaitanya Charitamrita Chandidas or different Chandidas?
Yeah, Chandidas, Chaitanya Charitamrita, his description come.
Yes, Prabhu, that flower, one
That
of
comes
his
in
brother
Chaitanya
was,
Charitamrita.
yes, Prabhu, that
Okay.
one of his brother was devotee of
Yeah,
Durga Devi.
yeah. But that
And
story comes in Chaitanya Charitamrita. I don't know. I'm not sure.
anyway,
That is the Chandidas who
yes.
was a
So
worshipper of Chandi but became a great devotee.
yes, 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 yes. So point is he the same Chandidas Prabhuji whose
Yes,
writing
yes,
is okay,
yes.
okay. And who is Vidyapati Prabhu?
Vidyapati. Vidyapati, I don't know.
I was little confused because
Rup
Vidyapati
Sanatan
I
Prabhu, maybe knowing. Roop Sanatan, do you know about Vidyapati?
Yes, Vidyapati is a famous poet from Mithila, which is
Okay.
present-day Bihar. So he was writing poems, but for a period of time. So initially devotee of Lord Shiva, but then he uses, and he was a state poet. So the king of Mithila actually, he used to write poems as a state poet, but then his interest shifted in writing uh, songs about Radha and Krishna. And that's how he became very famous. There is another interesting pastime that I've heard is when Advaitacharya went to Vrindavan and was returning back to Shantipur, he actually met Vidyapati on the way, and two became also very great friends. So it seems that Vidyapati had association of Advaitacharya.
Okay,
Uh,
Vidyapati is contemporary of Advaita Acharya.
that I've heard one pastime, heard from Indu Maharaj. But
Okay.
the general info of Vidyapati was a Mithila poet, generally devotee of Lord Shiva. He wrote many, but then over a period of time, he started writing about Radha and Krishna. And that gave him a lot of, became very famous due to that. Yes.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, there is a flyover near Sialda that is named after Vidyapati Setu.
They can
Sialda to when we go to from Sialda to MG Road, then that flyover comes. That is Vidyapati Setu,
you have to
named
see
after.
uh, that Vidyapati is same or not.
Okay.
Ruchi, another thing.
Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Ruchi, can you just give some brief encounter of Rasavas, practical,
Rasa-
real-time example? What is there in this Chaitanya Charitamrita or some?
Rasavas, I'll just yesterday I just this NOD it is there. Just
Mhm,
open because that part we read till 19th chapter during our study of NOD.
mhm.
You are asking about Rasa Bhas Prabhu, she wrote.
Yes, yes. Rasavas, some example which Chaitanya
Prabhupada
Mahaprabhu did
gives
not appreciate at all. Yes, Prabhu.
While writing poetry, you need to be very careful about how the rasas mix. Like when you're in the same poet, if you're writing a poetry, and this is where maybe it's a little advanced in terms of because we are talking about rasa, so that immediately means that one needs to be very mature. But to give an example in how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so if a poet comes and he tells, I have written a new song about Radha and Krishna, say how they decorate in spring. Now, if you're writing such a poet, then you cannot write in the same poet about Krishna and Balram in the same stanza. Because when Krishna and Balram are there, then Radha and Krishna are not there. So there is a separate place for Sakhya Ras and Madhurya Ras. So you need to be very careful about how you are writing. It is inappropriate. So that is example. So when you are writing about, poet writes about Mother Yashoda and Krishna, he needs to be very careful that immediately he cannot start writing about Radha and Krishna there because that is more confidential. So the poet has to be very careful in how he presents that rasa because in Vrindavan, this is how things happen. Yeah. Another example is given like when a deity of Radha and Krishna are there, then you cannot keep a deity of Balramji there on the same altar because rasas do not mix there. It becomes a complete rasabhas. So that's why a poet needs to be very careful in how he presents that. Yeah. In
In this chapter, Prabhupada writes about mixing of rasas. So maybe you can read that one. Hmm. Basically, what Roop Sanatan Prabhu said is this is an advanced topic, and basically there are five different prominent rasas and seven secondary. So primary and secondary rasas are combined, that gives added mellow. So, but that incompatible mixing should not be there.
Mm.
So those things Prabhupada describes in this chapter.
It's
I have not
19th
read
chapter,
this.
bro.
I have not read this chapter, but you can read. This is chapter
Which-
49 from NOD.
49, huh?
Chapter 49.
Okay. Okay, bro. Thank you, bro.
Okay.
Okay, bro.
Thank you very much, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.